All right. Good afternoon, everyone. The Public Safety Standing Committee meeting for the month of September on September 14th at 4:15 p.m. Is called to order. We'll have the roll call. Alderman Payon.
Here.
Alderman Gay.
Not here.
It's 4:15 and they have made several attempts to contact Alderman Gay without success. So we would welcome him if he can make it. Approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would move that everything on the agenda be postponed except consideration of 03919, the accessory dwelling units. The reason being that I believe the chair has to move on rather quickly to another matter this afternoon. So,
well, that's at a request from the clerk due to the family situation. Okay. So that's the reason. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I second the motion. All in favor? Oh, excuse me, Ms. Regina. I'm sorry.
Postponed until when?
Until our next meeting. The other items you mean? Yes. Until the next meeting.
Okay.
In October. Okay, I'll second the motion to approve the agenda with amendments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? No. Okay, we'll move on to the legislation before the committee. That would be item number 5 on the original agenda, 0.3919, accessory dwelling units for the purpose of allowing accessory dwelling units in all zoning districts that allow single-family detached dwellings, establishing use requirements for accessory dwelling units, adding certain definitions, making stylistic changes, and generally related to accessory dwelling units. As we all know, we've had several hearings regarding the legislation here. It's been on several agendas. As you can see, based on our agenda tonight, this matter has appeared for almost a year. We've had much discussion. We've had a lot of feedback from the community regarding this. And at this time, we've had several amendments as well. And I know it's going to be on the city council agenda as scheduled for tonight. But I would give Alderman Payon an opportunity to make any comments. And we have Alderwoman Tierney with us this evening. And if she would like to make some comments as well.
Madam Chair, I can't recommend approval of this to the council as a whole. There are a number of reasons. This kind of comes under the category of the heart's in the right place, but the overall, this proposed ordinance is not. I think that those that propose this, I commend them for, again, having the right motives and the right thoughts, but unfortunately, this one still, even after all this time, is not ready for prime time, in my opinion. There are a number of problems with it that are very, there are a number of things that are problematic. And the most obvious thing is, I keep hearing an echo, but okay, I don't really know why. But the most problematic is that the ordinance does not do what it sets out to do, what its alleged purpose is, and that is to provide low-cost housing and or workforce housing. There's nothing in the ordinance that even mentions those words. Well, that's doesn't have to, but I think that there's no guarantee that that there would be a limit on the amount of rent that could be charged. There is an amendment to that effect, but I don't even really like the amendment. Also, it there are a number of other problems that aren't addressed. Environmental problems, trash pickup being one of those, parking, noise. I could go on and on. I won't. And at any rate, for those and many other reasons, I don't support this. I support the idea, and I find it ironic that we just signed on to do our best to get more low-cost housing or workforce housing in the city, and I wholeheartedly agree with that principle, but this is not a good vehicle for getting that done. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Alderman Payon. Alderwoman Tierney.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of thoughts here is that affordable housing, we have really put, obviously with the recent legal situation, we've actually put on the front burner. And there's a lot of opportunities in the city for affordable housing that we have not really explored to its fullest extent. I'm talking about new apartment buildings or larger structures, and we do know as well that these have been met with resistance, and consequently, we're sort of in a stalemate with affordable housing. And we have a housing task force, courtesy of my colleague, Dwan Gay, just started with a very aggressive timeline to come to some kind of path forward on affordable housing. Accessory dwelling units is a tool. It is a tool. It's a viable tool. It's been done well in other cities, but obviously it is because of we all have received some lack of a better word, backlash from our constituents, and feeling that this has been sort of thrust upon them. And in a way, it kind of has. We're in the middle of a comprehensive plan. My constituents don't have a lot of faith right now in enforcing because of the reaction to the Airbnb situation and the saturation of our neighborhoods with those. So I simply request that it be withdrawn. I don't think we should move it forward to even vote on because we're not really giving it a fair debate. So I think it's premature. It shouldn't go away at a later date. It should be reintroduced. If this was approved as written, it is it's quite a mess. There's a lot of amendments, and I'm sure that we would have to unravel it. And I'm reading, just to close, I'm reading this public testimony we got from this gentleman who lives in Crownsville and, sought to look for housing in Annapolis and couldn't afford it. But his reasoning actually I can use in the defense of postponing it, because he said we can learn from other jurisdictions that have legislated ADUs is sometimes they have too many requirements and they simply don't get built. And that provides no benefit for anyone. Similar to that, I think the legislation as it stands right now with the amendments approved, it doesn't give much of an opportunity and really defeats the purpose of offering affordable housing citywide. And the key word there is citywide. My vote is not a no or yes, but to pull it, to absolutely pull it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Tierney. Several things I'd like to say. First of all, I have requested that this piece of legislation be put on the Public Safety Committee because of what Alderman Payon indicated, some issues that had arisen regarding traffic, quality of life, those sorts of issues. And I couldn't agree more. This is something we do want to put forward, but I think at this point, what we have before us is not sufficient. I definitely agree with Alderwoman Tierney that we need to certainly wrap our arms around the task force that Alderman Gay has created. We also need the assistance and the look-see for the Planning Commission. And kind of on a personal note, when I look at legislation, especially in a body such as ours, and overall we work, I do believe, very well together. Normally we have very few amendments. If they're substantive, normally they're not over maybe 4, unless it's the budget. And that's where we have a lot of amendments, and that's reasonable. But when you have these many amendments that are substantive on a piece of legislation, I think that's a trigger to look at and say, wait a minute, we need to pull back unless there's some kind of clarifying non-substantive amendment to change an A to a the or something like that, or a little beyond that. But something like this, I think that should be a signal to all of us that we need to take another look. I applaud Alderman Rodriguez and Alderman Gay for bringing this to us, or former Alderman Rodriguez, for bringing this to us. I've heard from my constituents in Ward 3 from the Greater Parole Community Association that represents close to that has a membership of close to 500 members. And much of their concern centered around quality of life issues that they were particularly keen and had a keen insight into. So at this point, Alderwoman Tierney, I understand your request to postponement. I think that's premature. I think that's a subject for us tonight at the City Council meeting, since it's going to be on our agenda tonight. But for this Public Safety Committee meeting, I'll be voting no. And I'm not going to speak for Alderman Payon, but that's my understanding as well. But I'd also like to hear from our Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Berger, if she would like to add anything to the discussion as well.
I appreciate you, but I have nothing that I'd like to add. Okay.
Well, thank you, Ms. Berger. Anyway, so that's kind of my sense of it. Certainly, Alderman.
Yeah, and let me clarify, because I think what's before us is whether we support or we don't support it. And so for the record, I do not support the legislation as it stands right now. I went ahead of myself and said my hope for tonight is that it is pulled so that it doesn't come to an unfortunate vote. That's all. So for this meeting and what's in front of us, I do not support this legislation. I cannot support this legislation.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, and I do believe at tonight's meeting at 7 o'clock, I'm in agreement with you that the legislation should be pulled and that we take a keener look at it with the task force in mind, as well as the Planning Commission in mind, and looking at something that we all can pretty much come to an agreement with a limited number of amendments. So anyway, Alderman Payon, any? Oh, go.
Yeah. I actually, it's along the lines of what you were. Let me continue with what you were just saying about it being pulled. I think that I'm not sure that the legislation, and I don't mean to demean the sponsors who worked very hard on this and put together. With the amendments, it's a lot more tolerable than it was originally, and from my point of view. But it's still not there. And my thinking is that this isn't something that the amendments we have will cure, or any other amendments. I think, I hate to say it because it sounds like I'm demeaning the people that worked on this, and I don't intend to do that. But I think we have to go back to square one and start all over with it. I think that's the only way that we can really do it. I mean, the only jurisdictions, I studied 5, and the only ones that successfully did this as a means of establishing or encouraging, low rents is to give credit, tax credits to the people that built these on, to cut their taxes in some form or another, or give credit, every month, give somebody a couple of $100s to go toward the rent, some variation of that. But we're not in a position to do that right now. I'm sorry. I'd like to be able to do that, but HACA, of course, has well, for lack of a better term, discounted rent, and they should. That's what they do. And the city, it'd be nice if we could afford that, but man, I spent 3 months working on the budget, and there's just no way that can happen, fiscally speaking, in a fiscally responsible manner, with the budget that we passed. And I don't even know that the people that our colleagues who drew this up had that in mind to do, but that's the only way it's been successful. I have a brother who's in this field, and he agreed with that. Montgomery County had the devil of a time. I mean, you talk about an expensive place to live. And the only reason why they still have it on the books is because they can't afford to give tax credits to the people that have ADUs so that they don't have to charge perhaps the going rate for rent. And I think that's a luxury we don't have in the city right now. So I think we have to go back and start all over again. Now, maybe we will have that luxury in the future. I don't know, but I don't think so. I'm not optimistic, but I do support the spirit of the legislation, and I certainly do support low cost housing and workforce housing. We need more of that in the city, no doubt about it. This just isn't right vehicle.
Thank you so much. I agree. I'm definitely in favor of the spirit of the legislation. Alderwoman Tierney, you had something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, what I was going to add was in the spirit of our initiative, on affordable housing, I'd hate for it, to go forward and be voted down. That was my point. But to my colleague Alderman Payone's point, affordable housing has a different definition in different. I wouldn't even say zones. I'd say wards, and that's unfortunate. That's the demographics of it goes way back, as you know, and it's a challenge. I mean, to kind of make this an application citywide for affordable housing, so that you can address affordable housing on different levels, whether it's workforce or, for other reasons. So. I think Dr. Nash worked on this to get something through where she even said it's minimal. So it has such an impact relative to what it is actually going to accomplish. So I hope that if and when it's ever reintroduced, that there's something that we can all, benefit from to introduce some kind of affordability.
Thank you. And I will say this in light and in the spirit of which we're talking about affordable housing, we in Ward 3 are welcoming our 42 workforce townhomes called Town Courts, which is right off of West Street off of Gibraltar. And so that was a long haul, not because of what we wanted to do, but there was some legal issues involved in the roadway and some errors and those kinds of things that kind of occurred. But we're looking forward to those 42 townhomes. They're going to be rentals. We wanted them to be initially tax credits, but we got past the situation where that was available because of the other issues we had. But they will be offering, the company will be offering a very robust opportunities to folks to get lessons and classes on what you need to do to end up buying and purchasing your own home. So we're very proud of what we're going to be doing in Ward 3 very soon. It's been a long haul, but we're just about there. So that's something that we're looking forward to. That's a small piece of this, but we believe that's a very impactful piece of affordable housing for people who want to live in Annapolis. But thank you. Anyone else for the good of the order who would like to speak on this issue? Okay. Alderman Payone, are you ready to vote?
I am.
Okay. All in favor of voting to send this piece of legislation onto our City Council 0-39-19, all in favor say aye. All opposed?
No.
No. The noes have it 2-0. Thank you very much. Is there anything else for the good of the order on this piece, on this agenda today? I don't believe so.
I move that we adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No. The meeting
I do
is
this.
adjourned at 4:35 p.m.